Cool. All right, so I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. The only things that we really had on our agenda today were if we had quorum to approve the minutes that have been outstanding for a couple of months. So that's the May meeting minutes and the June meeting minutes. And then we haven't had quorum since then. We didn't have quorum at the picnic or at any of our meetings since then. So we don't have any more minutes to approve. So I'm going to share my screen really quick.
Can I vote if I wasn't at any of those meetings?
Yeah, because you're still a member of the committee, theoretically.
Okay.
Okay. And when I'm screen sharing, it isn't letting me add people from the waiting room. Mike, I made you a co-host. Can you admit the people that show up? Or anyone else want to help?
I can.
Yeah, I got it.
All right, cool, thanks.
I just keep
All
myself
right.
muted and
No worries. All right, so these are the May meeting minutes. I know that probably none of us remember what exactly happened, but I'll just scroll down real slow so you can see. We received all the reports that we normally get. We got the county reports. And that was pretty much it on this meeting. So I will entertain a motion to accept the May meeting minutes.
So moved.
So moved, second, Catherine.
Thank you. So moved by Jill, seconded by Rick. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Awesome. Good job, everybody. All right, so that's May and on to June. So this was an executive committee meeting. Same thing, probably don't remember all that happened, but I'll just scroll down really, really slowly so you can see. And that was it. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve these minutes.
So moved, Catherine.
Thank you, Rick.
Second,
Do I have a
Second,
second?
Mike.
All right, I heard you first, Mike. So moved by Rick, seconded by Mike. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Please say nay. All right, cool. We've got our minutes approved. Excellent. Okay, so Emily said that she would send me some information about the redistricting that's coming up in February, like the official MDP, what to do steps. And I have not received that from her. So I'll email her again and try and get that for our January meeting because we're not meeting in December. But they still really haven't explained how that's going to work very well. And then the only other thing that I really had on our agenda was the election retrospective. So we had a lot of successes. We also had some pretty heartbreaking failures. So I figured it would be good to get everybody together to strategize for what we can do better, what we learned, what went well, what didn't go well. So I will just open the floor to that discussion.
Are we not gonna do county reports, or are they at the end of the agenda?
We can do it first if you want to, Jill.
I don't know. I'm just thinking that maybe that would be a good kind of warm-up activity, and then it might spur some discussion for that conversation.
Sure. Rick, I know you're on and you're one of our committee leaders. Did you have anything to report as a wrap up for the election from the candidates and campaign committee?
Nope.
Okay. So Jill Allegan is first. So let's go.
Okay, well, I feel like we had a fairly successful campaign season. It was quite a change for Allegan to have 6 House candidates and 3 state Senate candidates. And we did our best to navigate that. We had Joey, which we considered to be, our number 1 most winnable. And then we had 2 that we expected to be competitive, and unfortunately they were just at expectation. So we didn't we didn't set any records, but we worked really hard. And that was for Justin Mendoza, who's on here. Hey, Justin, and then Larry Jackson. And then our other three were, you know, the numbers were not with us. And Austin Marsman did run for county commission and he did lose. And so that, and kind of by a lot. So nobody probably could have worked harder, and it's just ridiculously red. So, and Don lost his race on Lake Shore, closer, but still not, it didn't track with the composite scores. So that was kind of disappointing. And I guess the only other thing, if I forgot anything, Helen will tell you, because I officially am not on the executive board for Allegan County Dems any longer. I am, as I told most of you before, I'm running for the chair of CD4. And so in preparation for that, Helen Goings is taking over as chair of the Allegan Dems, and I'm going to hand it to her.
Thanks, Jill. Thanks for certainly all the work that you've done for the Allegan County Dems. We wouldn't be what we are without you. You know, we're now in an off year and we're going to just work our tails off to keep our momentum up. We don't want to backstep. It seems like the last 2 years with COVID, we've taken 1 step forward and about 5 steps backwards, and we're going to try to make that a little bit more even, keep building our membership, keep working together. I'm really excited about working with everybody that's here and just making West Michigan, Southwest Michigan, as blue as possible. Oh, if you haven't gotten your tickets to the gala, they're almost sold out, so make sure you do.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am on the canvassing board in Kalamazoo, and we did not have any issues, but it sounded like you guys may have. So I was just curious what happened.
We had a lot of issues. There was this group called Boots on the Ground. It's kind of a group that's forming all over. We had Michigan Dems involved in terms of voter protection. They demanded that 26,000 people to be taken off our poll books. They were just demanding all sorts of things. At one point, the sheriffs were called in to remove them because when the meeting was over, they wouldn't leave. They wanted to know why people who moved into a district could suddenly vote. They wanted us to recount. If somebody voted straight R, why did they vote yes on the 3 proposals? I mean, yeah, so like, hello.
It was pretty insane. Yeah, the main thing they were doing is they were also bringing lists of people that they claimed were dead and had voted. And unfortunately, a Democrat was chair of the Board of Canvassers, but he wasn't familiar with, you know, really running meetings, didn't have a lot of experience with it, never had people come and do public comment at a Board of Canvassers meeting. And so, you know, he did not know that you don't actually have to address their concerns. You can just say thank you and move on with your business. So he was trying to respond to them, but at the same time that he was trying to respond to them, he wasn't happy about it. And he was really frustrated with them that they were asking the Board of Canvassers to do stuff that was totally outside of their scope of responsibility. So it was kind of a cluster the first couple of days of the canvass. And then I talked to him after the first day, but I didn't realize it was going to get worse instead of better. And I didn't really understand what was going on. The first day of the canvass, there were just 3 people that came that were Republicans, and we didn't have any Dems there. After I got some feedback about what the issue was, I coached him that when people come to give their public comment, you don't actually have to address those concerns, especially because they're not even part of your scope of responsibility, and that's not your problem. So, you know, don't respond to them, and then it will just be over with. Eventually. but their main complaints were dead people were voting. And unfortunately, on the first day of the canvass, they spent 3 hours going through the Cheshire Township poll book to prove to those people that the people on the names on the list that they gave them actually weren't even on the voter registration list at all. So they wasted 3 hours. And then, then they got better. But it was complaints about that. And then there were a lot of complaints that the Dominion voting machines were suspect. And so the whole election should be recounted by hand. And I don't think that they even understand the magnitude of that, because I mean, how many races were there on the ballot? 30?
Yeah.
And you got to go through all the ballots in every precinct and count them for governor, and then count them for, even if you didn't count lieutenant governor, because I think that's together, secretary of state. I mean, like, it would be insane to recount an entire precinct every race. So I don't think these people even know what they're talking about. We had Ken Byer at the canvas on Monday, and he is with this group that Steve Cara has started called the Grand New Party. And he's been apparently working for 2 years in all around the country to try to work on all this voter fraud and all this, stolen elections. And he's a plumber and he lives in Heath Township. So yeah, we had a whole basket full of crazies. And interestingly, so the other thing I'll share with you, we'll end on a good note. So but I'm not going to get there yet. One more bad thing. So of the board of canvassers, you got 2 Republicans. One of them was an election denying batshit crazy Trumper. But the other one is a very conservative Republican who is not crazy, who is nice and honest and honorable. And she confided to Mike that she voted for Jocelyn Benson. First time in her life she's ever voted for a Democrat. So that's the election canvassing board bullshit.
Melissa, you had your hand up?
I was just going to say that we had a challenger in one of our municipalities that seemed fairly normal, a GOP challenger according to ours, but seemed pretty normal until the end when they were closing up, and this challenger needed to get the serial number from the tabulator, and nobody could understand why. So when I was at the county board the other day, I asked our county clerk, I said, have you ever had this happen? And she just looked at me like, what? And she's very Republican, has a cat named Trumpy. So we figured out that, that was just in, case they needed to collect any tabulators, they would know which ones they needed to collect. So, but the challenger wanted the serial number from, and we do have Dominions. So, anyway, it was just like, oh my God. So yeah, okay, that was it. Yes, and it's an orange cat. It was. She got it right after Trump wasn't 16, and she sat at the county commissioner meeting just proud as hell and just said, "Yes, I have a new cat named him Trumpy." And it was all I could do not to just throw up. But anyway, so that's it.
Poor cat.
And that was one of the things I coached Mike. I said, just listen and tell him thank you and try not to roll your eyes.
Wow. All right. Oh, Tom, I see your hand. Sorry.
Hey, I would like for Helen to go in a little bit more detail about the party that's coming up. I don't know if everybody is familiar with what's going on, but it's pretty cool. So, and I mean, Helen, would you like to give out a little more details?
Sure. We're having a holiday gala that is to recognize our successes, all the people that came together, all the conversations that we had with people. It's on Tuesday, December 6th. It's going to be at Waypost Brewing. I guess it's mailing addresses in Fenville. It's right on Blue Star, kind of Glen area. We have 66 tickets available. 53 of those are sold. So if you want to come, you need to get online. It's posted at the top of our site, I think, Jill. And
It's not, I don't think.
Anyway, we did mail out 200 plus invitations, mostly to Allegan County people, because that's what it was. But we have Congresswoman Hillary Skolton is our star speaker. Nicole Wells Stallworth, who is the executive director of Planned Parenthood, and Dr. Matt Longjohn is our MC. So we're very excited about what we have, and it's just 2 hours of, and great food. I mean,
Yes.
gourmet food. So,
Gourmet appetizers.
yep. And so it's a cash bar. I should put that out there.
Yes.
It is a really fun spot. I kind of wish it was bigger because we've been selling tickets very quickly, but it is what it is. It's going to have some holiday decorations, and we're just, like I said, getting together to like say, yay, look at what we did and look at where we're going.
And it's a fundraiser to pay the rent for the office for the next year.
Yes, it is.
So who should they contact if they want a ticket if it's not on your website?
They can email me chair.allegandems@gmail.
Cool. All right, any other questions for Allegan County? Well, then let's go to Berrien County.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you all again. Yeah, similar story, I think, to Jill's, and I'm so sorry, I forgot your name already, Helen. We had a lot of successes, and that's what we're focused on, right? And we need to be really proud of the work, the accomplishments, right? Of the work that we've been doing for the last several years, really, that led up to this election, a couple of years. We shared the win of our 38th district House rep with Joey's win, which of course we're all ecstatic about. First time in since 1964 that we've had Democratic representation in our county. Time before that was 32, I believe. I had to brush up on a few statistics to get the quotes right and the interviews right. So we're proud and couldn't be happier about that. We lost, of course, our state Senate seat. Kim Jorgensen Gain did not win, but you know, that's just on our list of things to work on for next time. Our county commission races were mostly successful. We have 3 seats now on our county commission. I mean, we've had 3, we maintained 3. But one was a switch. We now have Chokwe Pitchford representing Benton Harbor instead of, who will be a strong voice for our causes at the county level, which is really important. So he and Ray Bell will be working together with Mamie Yarborough to really present a stronger, more united front than has been in the past. We lost another seat by 100 votes, which is our heartbreak of the election. Michelle Hannon from New Buffalo did as good a job as could be done, humanly possible, knocked as many doors as she could have, and we all did. But that's just it's a tough area. New Buffalo is blue, but Bridgman is not. And, you know, and it's just, but we're so damn close, right? And that's what we need to stay focused on. We're going to get it. And then we also lost the other one we had was Berrien Springs, Orinoco. We lost that one by more. And it's, you know, the moral of the story there is that we just need more work, more help, right? More people knocking more doors. Our guy, Brett Muchow, who ran there, is a perfect candidate. He's an awesome, brilliant, he's a farmer, was a teacher, he's like, it doesn't get any better. But he's a farmer and kind of has a lot of work to do. And so didn't have as much time, right, to knock on the door. So that's on us. We got to do a better job of supporting our candidates when they're in those positions. So those were the lessons learned there. We won almost all of our school board races, which is huge, right? We've talked a lot about the infiltration, I don't know what the heck to call it, of people who wanted change for all the wrong reasons. And we were successful in combating that in all but one school district in our county. And so that's a win. I mean, that's a huge win. You know, all politics is local. That's our job as county chairs, right? We've got to stay focused on the local, and that starts at the school board and in the municipalities and the cities, and then the county, and then state stuff, right? And so the fact that we mostly won at that main grassroots level is, I think, huge. We have our chair meeting tomorrow where we will talk about what our strategy is going forward. I like to use the start, stop, continue model, right? What new things do we have to start? What practices weren't working that we need to stop, and what's working that we need to continue? And we have a lot of things on all of those. Well, actually, mostly ideas for starts and lots of good continues. Not a whole lot of stops, because what we're doing is working. It's just, we need more of it. It really is the end. At the end of the day, that's what I think. So we'll see if our leadership group agrees with me. We need, I think, more distributed representation, both geographically and demographically. And we just need to grow that grassroots, right? Grow those precinct delegates and keep moving forward, which is what we're going to do. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Amy. Any questions for Amy? All right, I don't see any. Anyone here from Cass County? Okay. And I don't think there's anybody here from St. Joseph either. All right, Van Buren.
We're gonna do Kalamazoo first.
Oh yeah, Kalamazoo is first alphabetically. Thank you.
I don't mind waiting either way. Hi
Go ahead.
everyone. So we had a great year in Kalamazoo. In fact, lots of press has come out about how much we just completely blew it out of the water. I think the KGOP is going to have to do some serious restructuring and considering of where they're going to focus their efforts in the next 2 and 4 years. We took 6 out of 9 county commission seats, which I believe constitutes a super majority. Maybe not, but that's huge for us. And we had candidates in every seat, even in the 3 that we lost. One of the ones that we lost is Texas Township, Schoolcraft and Prairie Ron Townships, and she only lost by 1,100 votes. And that's a very, very winnable seat in 2 and 4 years. So I'm really excited about the prospects there. We, reelected our state folks, Sean, Julie, Christine. Justin came in really close. We share that district with Allegan County. A couple others that we sort of share, Bart Goldberg, Joseph Alfonso, a couple other State House folks who did not prevail, but did really well. So let's see, basically we had 2 judicial candidates who we endorsed, who won, Ken Barnard and Beckett Jones. That was really exciting. We had a KPS, a Kalamazoo Public School person who we had endorsed win, and then we had one of our endorsees for KVCC trustee who also won, which is all great. I think that's all of our down ballot folks. So now we're kind of looking into city elections next year. Also really focusing on like the precinct delegate level. We've just been getting our asses kicked by the GOP when it comes to recruiting precinct delegates and school board candidates. And I heard so many times this season, why don't you have any endorsements for Portage Public School Board? Or why is there only one endorsement for KPS School Board? So we really need to work on, as a party, familiarizing ourselves with those candidates who either are or will be running for those really, really small down ballot races, because they are just the most important funnel, because even with the term limit changes, our top of ticket folks aren't going to be there forever. So that's going to be a priority going into the next term. Very excited to have had our elections for our executive board Thursday night. I am excited to serve again as chair with Justin, who will be our first vice chair, and Bill Reeves, who will be our second vice chair. It's just nice to have some consistency on the e-board after a lot of years of inconsistency. So I'm very excited to see what we can do as a party, both for the new 4th and the new 5th congressional districts. And I think that's it, folks.
Awesome. Any questions for Mariah? Mark?
I just wanted to add a footnote, which is that our district court endorsed candidate Beckett Jones won by just a couple of hundred votes. And Mariah mentioned this at the meeting we had Thursday night, but endorsements have been a source of contention and debate in the Kalamazoo County Party. But at the end of the day, you look at a result like that, and that probably, our endorsement may well have made the difference in his election. And we can point to other cases in the past where specifically endorsements for Kalamazoo City Commission have been swung by the endorsement of the Kalamazoo County Democratic Party. So I think it'll continue to be a source of discussion, but in the end, we are exercising our power to influence those who are elected, and that's what we're all about.
That's a really good point. And that's really cool. I mean, when a race is close like that, it's very exciting, but to know that that may have made the difference, that's pretty cool. Amy?
Could I just add really quick? I just want to agree with what Mark said. For example, with our school board candidates, a lot of our school board candidates did not want our formal endorsement. So we were careful to put on our literature. We still put them on our literature, but what we did is we called them pro-public education candidates. And so I think that is an example of a compromise that makes sense. At the end of the day, I feel, at least, and I know there's discussion to be had, but I feel that it's our responsibility to inform our electorate, especially our people, right, of who we think is going to best represent our values, even if the candidates themselves don't feel comfortable completely with that. And I think it's going to get easier for us, though. It's the good news, right? Because like Mark said, hey, our endorsement actually is helping you. So how the heck are you telling us now that you don't want it? So that's just my 2 cents. I wanted to share that. Thanks.
That's really interesting. I'm glad that you could still include them in your literature. That's really important. I'm sure that it influenced quite a number of people. All right. Okay. If there are no further questions, on to Van Buren County.
Eleanor?
Oh, yes.
the
Oh,
top-
sorry, Joe.
That's okay. On the topic of endorsements,
Mhm.
I think for areas where a Democratic endorsement isn't necessarily going to be a positive thing, i.e. rural areas, what we did was we leveraged the MEA endorsements. Now that can be problematic because unfortunately there are some areas where teachers don't get the support that they deserve. But that's what we did in Plainwell. Is I worked with our MEA person to make sure that we had an SNR. And for any other folks that have rural areas, I think the more urban areas, people might be more familiar with this, but I had no idea. I mean, 6 years this year, and I had no idea what the MEA SNR process was. We've never done them. And the membership has to ask for the SNR. And the teachers, because SNRs haven't been done historically, the teachers don't know that they're supposed to ask for the SNR. I think they're probably, if they're thinking there's going to be a recommendation process, they're thinking that like somebody's going to, ask them to join an SNR, like the MEA is going to set it up, but the MEA doesn't. The teachers have to initiate it. So we didn't do as good a job on getting the SNRs done in Allegan County as a result of that. Plainwell was on top of it because we had 10 people running for 4 seats. The MEA endorsed a mixed board because one of the people that's endorsed, it's a current member of our board in Plainwell, is a Republican, staunch Republican, but she's not crazy and she's a good treasurer. And so, the teachers endorsed a mixed slate. and the teacher endorsed candidates won, which is a huge win for teachers and that they're valued. So we tried to get one in Martin and Wayland and Allegan and at Seago, I think. And by the time the requests came in, it was just too late in the process to get, one together. So I just wanted to stress that, you gotta do the endorsement that's gonna work for your electorate. And to get ahead of the game on the MEA endorsements, all you gotta do is find a teacher to request it, and then the MEA will take the ball and run with it.
Eleanor, can I respond to those last two comments?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So just to those more broadly, I'm really looking for ways in which we can make our endorsement process a little more accessible, because if yours is anything like ours, nominations have to be made for endorsement by the county committee. And so like our county committee people, because of the not to brag, but because of the number of Democratic candidates we have, don't necessarily know who's running for school board just because of the size of our schools and all of these other things, right? So it really disadvantages people who aren't a part of the Democratic infrastructure, which of course is like, yes, get involved in your Democratic infrastructure, but also it's definitely a barrier, not just for endorsement, but then for us as a party to do our job and let the voters know who are our favorite candidates. So if anyone wants to talk offline, y'all have my email address. I would love to hear your thoughts on that later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariah. Any other questions, comments? All right, let's go ahead to Rick for Van Buren County.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Melissa, are you still on? Clapper?
I am. I got
Yeah.
thrown off, but I'm back.
That's right. Did you hear any of the portion about Joe was talking about MEA?
Nope, I missed all of that. I couldn't
All right,
get
so
back in.
I'm gonna jump in as well, and I'll let Melissa too, because we were both very involved with as MEA retired members in terms of the screening and recommendations. And I think we talked about it a little bit. I know Jill and Eleanor, when we met in October, I think we had a little bit of a conversation as well. But I could tell you that, and I'll let Melissa jump in as well. The MEA maybe was more, the Michigan Education Association was more involved and made that a priority this year for the screening and recommendations process. And everybody's correct. Not every school board candidate wants that recommendation because from a party, right, from a Democratic Party, or even from a teachers union, because they don't want to be too closely tied. However, I think to either one of those organizations. However, this year, I think there were more local school district unions, teacher unions, and educational support professional organizations that were more involved with that process. And MEA invested money and resources and everything else to help that happen. And so I was very proud as an MEA retired member that happened. And Melissa, if you want to jump in it all, because it is an extremely important process. My former school district actually got very involved, where I was the union president before I retired, got involved and even like published videos and everything else and that sort of thing. So I agree with everybody that finding ways to encourage those local unions to be more assertive and know that they have some support, I think would go a long way. But Melissa, I'll let you jump in if there's anything else you want to share.
Well, the only thing I would say is, and I apologize for not knowing what everybody said, but this time, at least I'll speak for Berrien County. We have 16 school districts. 10 of those are being challenged by we, the parents. We had, the rules are from MEA is that, you have to be endorsed. You have to be recommended by the local EA, ESP group in order to receive funding. That didn't change. However, what MEA did do this time, and we have said more than once to them, thank you, is that they kind of opened up the ability to perform an SNR, screening and recommendation, in different ways. Usually instead of just, you meet, you have a group of people, they meet one-on-one, they opened it up to different things. They still had criteria they had to follow. You had to be fair. You had to ask the same questions of everybody, but we had one group that did a meet and greet. They had high school students ask questions of the candidates, same ones, and then the EA met afterwards with their group. You had to be a pack a person, you had to belong to the PAC or have given to PAC to make the decision. One group did interviews. They did one-on-one interviews. One school district actually did a public S&R. Some just did they sent out surveys. But the point was, it gave the locals a lot more flexibility in an already crazy time when they're trying to deal with everything to perform these things. And I think it also brought the attention, because nobody pays attention to school board meetings. No offense, Jill, you know, I was a school board president. I was a union president for years. Many times I was the only one at a school board meeting, you know, so I said, if nothing else, this election cycle brought to the forefront the importance of the lowest on the totem pole, where I always put it, on school boards. And so I think we have to encourage, Rick and I are going to be working, they're going to start legislative things again with the local EAs, and that's coming from MEA. So I think there's lots of ways that we can do it. And I think this is just one of those participations where they have to be kind of in the middle, because we do have a lot of Republican members. But we have to figure out ways to increase the importance of a school board election. Because we had one district that did lose all 4 seats to the We the Parents, and it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. Everybody else was successful and had one reelected, but there were hopefully some other ones that aren't as crazy. But Brandywine did lose all 4 seats. So it's not going to be good. I just read that someplace in South Carolina, the Moms for Liberty group that won their school board elections just fired their superintendent and is now planning on deciding which books they can and can't do and which curriculum they can do too. So it's going to be messy in a lot of places, and we can't afford to let this slip by. So I think, you know, staying involved with MEA, which Rick and I are, you know, part of MEA retired. We have other people I know on here. Amy's part of MEA, Terry, other people on the call here. So it's just trying to keep, I think, everybody informed and create those liaisons as part of the new CD4, you know, that we have to spread those out, you know, whether it's MEA, whether it's the out centers, whether it's whoever, you know. So anyway, sorry.
No, that's really important. Jill, I see your hand.
Yeah, on the school board topic, one other thing is when one of the Republicans was trolling Justin Mendoza, a ad that he ran, this guy named Corey, what's his last name, Justin? Corey
Spencer
That's
is
what
his
I thought.
name. He lives
Corey
in Galway.
Spencer. Yeah, go check him out on Facebook. He's scary. He's got a picture of a machine gun on his Facebook, the big thing behind your profile. So I trolled him. He was trolling Justin, so I trolled him and said, haven't seen Matt around. Does he live here? Because, you know, he just moved into the district. So I did troll him to start it, but then he came after me because he seems to know that I'm on the school board, and he told me that they were gonna had their investigators investigating me, and I would be exposed for the radical liberal that I am. And so these people are, I want to just echo what Melissa, these people are not going anywhere.
Nope,
This was just a
they are
dry
not.
run.
Yes, it was.
I
said, yes, it is. It was, I mean, you know, I'm on the library board too. And, you know, we're like a mile from the high school where they've already started challenging books. So, you know, everybody's getting ready for it. They're just going to spread out.
Yeah, and they have PACs. I don't know the names of all of them, but they have PACs. They're raising
Yeah.
money. They're not taking me out, so don't anybody worry.
Right.
But-
1776 is one of the PACs. Moms for Liberty is the other one.
And then well, Ottawa has the Ottawa Impact. There are different, there are quite a
Yes.
few of them. And there's another one in Kalamazoo County, and I don't know what the name of it is. But see, we have half of our district in Kalamazoo County in Cooper, and Otsego has half of their district in Alamo Township. So we kind of get a lot of bleed over from the Kalamazoo. But that guy Corey Spencer's from Richland, and he's young and arrogant, and he loves guns, and he's scary. I don't think I wouldn't say I'm not scared of him, but he's scary. And my parting shot was, challenge accepted. So, we do need to be, on the offense on this because they're coming.
Jet, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to agree with Jill because even though this election cycle may have been characterized by education being one of the forefront issues, we shouldn't be sleeping on what these We the Parents people are going to be continuing to do, because we may not be scared of them right now, but that may change when and if they do learn from their mistakes this time around and moderate their message, because even pushing such an extreme agenda that they've done so far, they managed to get pretty far with their PACs. And if they manage to moderate their message, they will pose a real threat. And from what I can tell in the GOP circles that I've been traveling in, they will be putting up candidates in future cycles as well, though we're not going to be able to tell how effective they're going to be until those cycles roll around. But I would say Jill is right. We can't afford to ignore the school boards anymore. Those basic building blocks of our electorate are very important, and I agree that we should be paying more close attention to them.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right. All right, any more comments on the county reports? I feel like this is segueing into our discussion about, you know, what went well, what didn't go well, what could we do better?
I can add some now. Eleanor,
Yeah,
if
go
you can
ahead.
hear a little bit.
Mhm.
And just to wrap up the school board kind of discussion, the Van Buren County EA Education Association meets monthly, and I attend those meetings as our MEA retired liaison to that group. They actually, their PAC made a donation to candidates, and I think maybe in the future they'll look at finding ways to support school board candidates as well, because they do have a PAC fund that allows them to do that. So I just wanted to share that out as well. So, and as Melissa mentioned, trying to be involved in having those conversations, because those teachers are busy every day doing their job, and anything that we can do to help support them, I think is critically important. So the other thing is I'm looking at the chat a little bit, and I'm sure Eleanor is too, but Jet, I'll be in touch with Joey's campaign, or with Joey and his office, in terms of a Van Buren County Young Democratic Party kind of situation. So I'll be in touch with you on that. The other thing I wanted to mention is that before I get into the Van Buren County report, you mentioned, Justin, you mentioned Lakeshore Leaders as well. Maybe you'll take an opportunity to talk more about that in a little bit, but because I had somebody from MEA reach out to me, Jessica Limbraris reached out to me on that as well. So anyway, for Van Buren County, let me tell you that we worked very hard this election cycle. And I want to thank Jill, and I want to thank Amy, and I want to thank Mariah, and I want to thank Helen. I want to thank everybody for everything that you did to encourage Van Buren County to do more this year. And it's been shared with us in Van Buren that we did more this year than has been done by the Van Buren County Democratic Party in quite a while. We invested quite a bit of money and resources, all candidates, Dem, and proposal 2 and 3 in particular. Proud to say that Jocelyn Benson did win in Van Buren County. Proposals 1, 2, and 3 all passed in a very rural, red, conservative Van Buren County. So we're very proud of that as well. We had 10 precinct delegates that were very involved. We created what we called our Precinct Delegate Action Committee. We did all sorts of events, actually started in August, participated in several community events just to get to engage voters and that sort of thing. We established what are called our mobile office, kind of mobile office program. We ended up having mobile offices. And what I mean by mobile offices, we had people that donated their RVs, where we handed out campaign literature, yard signs, etc. We were in Paw Paw. We were in Hartford, we were in Matawan, we were in South Haven, and I feel like I'm forgetting somewhere else. And I'll let Mike jump in too if he wants to a little bit in terms of the Mike Signs as well. But very proud of what we were able to accomplish in Van Buren County. And this is just, I can assure everyone that this is the base for Van Buren County moving forward, that we want to be involved, we want to do more, and then finding ways to collaborate with all of the new CD4 counties as well, finding everything that we can do to stay in communication and to collaborate with you all. This is the first time, I think, is Betty, are you still on here too? Betty Pearman attended several Van Buren. Hi,
Yeah,
Betty.
we're-
Thank you. Several Van Buren County events as well. So thank you to Betty too. And I will also tell you, it's exciting. This is the first time I think in a long time that Van Buren County is represented at the state level by 2 representatives. We have Senator Sean McCann, and we also have State Representative Joey Andrews elect. Already been in contact with Joey a little bit moving forward. So we're very excited about that. We met last Thursday, the Van Buren County Democratic Party did. We established and elected our new executive committee. We have 21 members of our executive committee. We elected our new officers. And then we are going to meet again Thursday, December the 1st to kind of put our, begin putting our plan together for 23 and 24. And then we're going to schedule a retreat in January or a work session in January to continue that organizing and everything else. I already mentioned that one of our goals will be to work with the other counties in the 4th Congressional District. I had the opportunity myself working as the Candidate Recruitment and Campaigns Committee for the 6th Congressional to get to know Helen very well, Jill. I know Melissa Clapper already through MEA work. Also had an opportunity to get to know Mariah Phelps. Doug Cultura is the Van Buren County CRCC rep to this group, and I think he'll want to continue in that capacity as well. But Allegan, Berrien, Kalamazoo, Van Buren, working with you all, as well as beginning to establish a relationship with the Battle Creek area in terms of Calhoun County, and then looking forward to working with some folks in Ottawa as well. But very excited about what we can do together to continue doing that work forward. I would be happy to answer any questions. I think I covered just about everything that I wanted to. So
we hit several festivals and parades this summer as well. We were in Lawrence for the Ox Roast. We went to Paw Paw for the Wine Harvest Festival. Got rained out, but there was a lot of people there up till that. And South Haven 4th of July parade. So Hartford, we have a little office in Hartford.
Yeah.
Somebody donated some space, so that was nice.
The other thing I'll add about that is we had a mobile office location in South Haven, that was right across the street from Kevin Whiteford's business office. So I'm sure he didn't always appreciate that, but anyway, I can't tell you how excited we are, and everybody that was involved with Joy's campaign in particular. I just can't tell you how excited we are in Van Buren County to have somebody representing us. And we had the opportunity to kind of establish a little bit of a relationship with Sean McCann's office prior to the election, but looking forward to working with him as well. That's it, I guess. Eleanor, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Mariah, I see your hand.
Thanks, Eleanor. Rick and the Van Buren crew, I just want to say that we have heard about your mobile offices and we have already adopted a plan to completely steal that idea from you. It's brilliant and a really good off-season idea to reach communities that we traditionally have underserved. So thank you to whoever had that idea. It is absolutely brilliant and we will be taking it from you.
Absolutely happy to share. The other thing, Wayne Deering is the guy, and he was in he worked with the Kalamazoo Dems for quite a while, did a lot of voter registration, but the original, I'm sorry.
No, I know Wayne. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so he kind of brought it to us, but the idea was that we would have we'd have one RV and we just drive around the whole county, right? So that we'd spend a morning in South Haven, the next afternoon in Paw Paw, et cetera. What happened is we had 4 different locations, especially our GOTV effort, which was basically Halloween until the 8th of November. That was very, very active. And we had people that volunteered to sign up. We worked with a group. Kathy Murphy is a Democrat in Paw Paw, established a women's GOTV group. We worked with Push here in South Haven, Progressives United of South Haven. Did some very focused strategic work with Joy Andrews and Kim Gaines' campaign, as well as Jared Polanowski, who was the 39th the 39th House District candidate in Van Buren County as well. did some focus things there too. Just when we use those mobile offices to try to communicate and engage with as many people as possible. And I will tell you that the feedback that we got is the number of young women voters that stopped at those mobile offices to pick up a Prop 3 sign. And thank you, Jill and Helen, for getting us Proposal 3 signs here in Van Buren to get started with. The number of those young women that stopped in. And then we had an opportunity to say, well, are you familiar with Kim Gain? Are you familiar with Joey Andrews? Are you familiar with our other candidates as well? So felt really good about that, and moving forward, trying to establish a permanent office at some point, but to maintain that mobile office concept too. So thank you, Mariah. Appreciate it.
Jessica, I see your hand.
Good morning. I'm Jessica Swartz. I'm in Kalamazoo and have been working with both the Dems and voters, not politicians. But I just wanted to, going along these lines of voter registration, I was at the Kalamazoo clerk's office on election day from 6:30 a.m. until 2 a.m. the next day. And one of the biggest issues with our lines there were the college students. And there's so many of them showed up on election day to register, which they can, but the problem is none of them have evidence of a permanent address. Their roommate is on the utilities, their parents pay the tuition bill, they don't have a lease because they stay in the dorms. And so one of the things, so we were able to keep our line, the Kalamazoo clerks are outstanding, and we're able to keep our line to about an hour, but I know like in East Lansing, the students there were waiting 4 hours to really get on college campuses before they have to show the physical evidence of residency to get those students registered. And I know college students always wait to the last minute to do everything, but maybe like the last week before they have to have that additional paperwork. And that would make a huge difference, because there were quite a few students who were just, left and wanted to vote and couldn't because they didn't have the information. So I'd say that's a big thing. And also here in Kalamazoo, because we've got so many overlapping municipalities, we've got Kalamazoo City, Kalamazoo Township, we've got all of these different things, and the students, I'm still learning, and I've been here, 7 years, the students have no idea. So again, if we could do some of those things to let them know where they're supposed to be. And one, I just saw the chat pop up. I mean, one of the things that the students don't understand is if they're registered back home, they can still vote back home. They just need to do it in enough time to get the absentee ballot. I mean, again, we had a lot of people coming in and say, well, I'm registered in Detroit. Can I vote here? Can I put my ballot in your Dropbox? So a lot of that type of thing, I think if we can get out and do that sooner, that will not only cut down the lines, but it'll get more college students out there voting.
Well, I think the 9 days of in-person voting is going to be a help, not for college students that need to vote in their home rural district, but it'll just give them more options where, they don't have to wait in line, hopefully.
Well, it was more the registration, not the voting, is they didn't, because that, they're cut off, what is it, 2 weeks, 10 days or something like that, where you have to show proof of registration if you're too close to the election.
Right.
That's the problem, that they just don't have that information.
I'm seeing Melissa's hand first.
So one thing, yes, I totally agree that there's a lot more issues, and I've seen Mark Miller nodding his head or one way or the other on some of these issues. One of the things that someone told me, and I don't know if it's true, is that I think another thing that might be connected to college students is if for some reason, I again have to check this out and I haven't had a chance to, that somehow if their place of residency might also somehow be attached to any loans that their parents may or may not be doing it. And so I think you have to make sure that there's no other things that registering someplace else besides your home can impact your financial aid or whatever. So I think that there are some other issues that we have to, and the other part of all this with the new proposal or with Prop 2 passing is it's going to be up to 9 days, but can't imagine that there's going to be, not up to 9 days of early voting in 1,500 personal polling places or whatever. So
No.
going to be interesting to see how they're going to do the legislation to set these all up. So it's going to be a challenge for all of us. But again, a lot of these things trying to get on campuses, and we have people here. Amy works at, Lake Michigan College. I mean, different ways that we can figure out how to start getting that information to people now. Before you go off to college, you can, get your ballot sent to your college dorm, so you don't have to worry about that. So I think there's a whole myriad of issues that we need to address with just that issue alone, because it appears the young people have maybe found their way to the polls,
Right.
for now. So
Well, I
thanks.
think if we target high schoolers and getting them registered to vote, then we can jump on that opportunity to educate them and give them, I don't think we want to give them paper. They don't like paper, right?
No, they
Jack?
don't. No, they don't. And the League of Women Voters, at least in Berrien County, we do registering at high schools. But again, limited to the number of people that you have, but yes.
Okay, Rick, I see your hand, and Jet, I also saw your hand.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'm going to make a note here before you. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, go ahead, Jet.
All right. So as far as voter registration goes in public schools, it's very difficult because schools have become a very partisan place in recent years, unfortunately, due to education being such a forefront issue. And it's a matter of our optics that we're worried about. Is if you're going to high schools to try and register Democratic voters, it would have to be through a nonpartisan organization such as Melissa said, the League of Women Voters. They have a great way of doing that, but any organization that's directly affiliated with us immediately gets shot down with any attempts to do that. So that's a factor that people should keep in mind when we're talking about trying to register high schoolers.
You're registering for League of Women Voters. You're not asking which party they're registering for. You're just registering voters, period. And we usually have a pretty good turnout with what we have, Amy, this year. We had a bunch. We had over 100, and we've done it a couple times. So it's interesting. It's an interesting day to spend with them. So
Yeah, partnering with the nonprofits in your area, the league, and there's a bazillion others, is critical for getting that piece done. It's
And when I did try doing it in Wayland, Martin, and Plainwell, and I just found people, and I just, said, will you reach out to the school and request to do voter registration? And they didn't identify themselves as anything. They just, just showed up, and they didn't have any partisan affiliation, but they didn't have to be part of like League of Women Voters or anything, because we kind of don't have that in Allegan County. We have a little help from the Ottawa Holland League of Women Voters in this northwest corner. And I've heard before that maybe Kalamazoo County would come up into the southern corner, southeast corner, but we're going to probably have to just do it as a citizen initiated effort.
Rick?
Well, good. Yeah, Melissa, I'm very interested in, and I'll follow up with Melissa too, on what you do and how you do registration in schools. Because you're going into schools, right, Melissa?
with the League of Women Voters, yes, we just make an appointment, and usually it's during their lunch hour. Lots of times, and we just take all the stuff in there and they announce who we are, and kids come up during their lunch hour, and or at the college, we just have Amy finds a nice spot for us and time of the day. And so, yeah, it's an interesting day to spend. And some of them we had a couple this last time at St. Joe, no less, that just flat ass, they were not going to register to vote. We've tried, it's like, what's an option, and so some of them just are not going to, some of them have no clue. So again, it's a way to do it. So anyway.
When the league does it, do they do like a QR code for the kids to scan and register on their phones?
No, we just have the paper.
Oh, wow.
But that's well, I mean,
We had the QR code this time at the college. I don't know about at the high schools, but yeah, we absolutely do that. And we just have
we
a
didn't at
laptop
the high
set up
school.
so they can do it right then.
Yeah, I created a kind of a fun register to vote graphic. I can share it with Eleanor.
Yep, that would be great.
To
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And it has a QR code on it for the kids to scan, and then they can just do it right on their phones.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, that would be great.
Mark, I see your hand.
It used to be that I went door to door in some of our WMU student neighborhoods to register. I don't have time for that, and I don't have the staff to do that. Simply flat out, there's no time. The sweet spot is from college move-in or around the 1st of September through the first half of October. And I wish we could organize some teams. People have made the point that registration should not be partisan. I agree with that. And if we could get the league to do more in our student neighborhoods during that part of the year, every year, that would be great.
All right, Helen, I see your hand.
I guess my question is, I taught government in high school for 15 years, and every one of my students, not everyone, but 90% of my students left my class registered or by 17 years, 6 months registered. So, the question is, where are these government teachers and why are they not teaching about voting? But besides that, I think that we do need to get to educate these kids on what they do when they go away to college and what happens. Besides that, I'd like to say, in terms of Allegan County, I really look forward to working with the counties around us in the new CD4, that we have collaboration on that candidate and the candidates that cross our county borders. I'd like to see us really communicate more. And the other thing is, we need, like you said, to start recruiting now, not in March 2024. We say, oh, who are we going to get to run for this seat? Because that gives that person no time to get fundraising and to get known by the MDP, and if it's congressional, by the DCCC. And so we need to look at recruiting people sooner and educating them on what they're doing. I know Jet has been working very hard for that young voters, young Democratic voters. Austin has taken up that banner in Allegan County. I'd like to see that get started. But I have to say, I'm impressed with these counties and the amount of volunteers they have. We have a county committee of about 7, maybe 8. We are having a really hard time. So I'd like to get together and kind of discuss that as we kind of have a powwow about what we're going to do. It's important. A lot of school boards are going to 6 years, so that starts to really limit the amount of time that people are going to be up for election. And if these people that we're discussing get on school boards for 6 years, there's a lot of damage that can be done. So we really want to start looking at that. And then also county boards. This is the last election for 2 years. After 2024, they are going to be a 4-year term. So it's important that we kind of get them established as incumbents and get them on as many boards as we can. I like the idea that Van Buren said about a retreat. I think it would be really cool to have a retreat with the different counties in the leadership in CD4 and maybe the county party chairs or vice chairs or whatever, and kind of just sit there and face to face and over some coffee or a beer, I don't care what, but to talk to and see where these different counties are going. And I guess that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Sarah, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that the Kalamazoo Area League of Women Voters has a very active program where they go into the high schools to register voters. I didn't participate in it this year, but they do. And they also have a new unit, just a new fledgling league chapter that started in Calhoun County in the past couple of years. So they're just trying to get established. Also, in the past maybe 3 or 4 elections, the league has held an educational forum and a mock election, actually using the voting machines and ballots. And they did this at the local Kalamazoo, the 2 high schools, and also Phoenix, I think. But this year, the Kalamazoo City Clerk didn't want to do it. He did not want to take any machines out, out into the high schools and have any kind of an election because of all the controversy over machines and all the, the lies about fraud. So that didn't happen this year. And I participated in the mock election, and it's really a wonderful process. So I hope they can start doing it again, but they do go into the high schools here. So thanks.
Thanks. Rick, I see your hand.
Yeah, before we get past, I just had a couple more thank yous. I wanted to thank Corey. I don't know if Corey King is still on the call or not, but I want to thank Corey and Jamario Eddy for all of their help from the MDP, at least from us in Van Buren County. And then I know I'm looking around the screen to see if we have any other people that were elected, because I don't know if Deshauna Robinson is still on the call or not, but she was reelected to the Benton Harbor School Board. So I wanted to congratulate her on that. And like I said, before we got past too much of the celebration. So I wanted to do that too. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Any other comments? So we're basically full on into the retrospective discussion at this point. So the floor is really open if anybody else has anything to add.
Well, I would just say that just to kind of tie up the school boards and the lack of information that most voters have. I mean, most school employees can't name their school board trustees, let alone the people in the community. That, I think we take advantage of the people that we have right here on this screen and others within our district to get a better understanding what school boards are doing. Deshauna, right here in our area, and just a lot of different committees I think need to take place. We don't need to reinvent the wheel in each of our counties, but we definitely need to pay attention and share what we have and how we can maybe make things better. Obviously, we'll have to tweak it depending on where you're at, but we have a wealth of information sitting on this screen here, and just on this screen alone. And I think we really need to, a retreat is good, but I think maybe even a bigger retreat where we, spend the day, break off into different sessions with different groups, whether it's county committees and executive committees or what, but I think we really need to start early. We don't know what's going to happen, how it's all going to play out with the new legislation. We don't know where the legislation is at to move the primary from August back to June. We don't know how successful the MDP is being for moving the presidential thing from March until February, all of which will impact on what our timelines are for going out and finding all of those people. So we're going to be busy, and we have cities coming up, and we're going to have to figure out how to walk and chew like 7 packs of gum at the same time, because it's going to just be quite intense, I think, and it's not going to be pretty. And then you have just the whole House Republicans and what the hell they're going to be doing. So it's not going to be smooth.
Mariah, I see your hand.
Thanks, Eleanor. My comment is not related to school boards, but just retrospectively, and maybe we don't need to talk about this here, but I would love to hear feedback from everyone else's encounters with the One campaign. I've been working with the One campaign in a variety of capacity for like 6 years. And this year, for my day job, I worked with them a lot in all of West Michigan. I probably visited 12 One campaign offices weekly for several weeks. And basically my understanding is that the individual candidates were very dissatisfied with the One campaign, more so than they have been historically. And so I think that is going to be relevant moving into the next cycle, because obviously we'll have a presidential top of the ticket, and we'll need to work with the One campaign as it comes through. But I heard horror stories about how candidates couldn't even get the number of doors knocked in their districts from the One campaign. So anything that anyone can contribute to that narrative that will help us better lobby for our individual candidates and prepare for those conversations when the One campaign comes to the next time. I know that in Kalamazoo County, we are very seriously considering not coordinating with them at all because it was such a disaster. So let me know your thoughts either here or offline.
Jill, I see your hand.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about that for just a brief. So, one campaign, I've kind of investigated this and talked to people about this. In 2018, we had a one campaign office in Plainwell. And my experience of it wasn't that different than you're describing, Mariah. To be fair to them, their job is to get out the base. I mean, I'm not going to say that they couldn't do a better job of that. Because I think there's always room for improvement. But that's what they're supposed to be doing. And it's always really challenging because, especially for Allegan, probably less so for Kalamazoo, but for Allegan, in 2018, I wanted to support them because they put an organizer in Allegan County. We had 7 county commissioner candidates, and all my candidates that were running for county commissioner, except for Christie and Saugatuck, had no idea what they were doing and didn't know how to, use Van and create lists and stuff like that. So we just knocked the doors they gave us. Well, that's a recipe for losing your ass in rural Democratic areas, because we are not going to win talking to Democrats. We are going to win and have a chance to win by talking to Republicans. So the strategy in some place like Allegan County is don't bring Gretchen Whitmer along with you. And I mean, and it breaks my heart because there's nothing I want to do more than just campaign for the whole ticket, I mean, all the way up and down. But it's not what our candidates need, because they need a lot more Republicans to vote for them than Gretchen Whitmer does or Joe Biden does. So it's a really challenging, exercise because they recruit the volunteers, and then there's this battle over the volunteers. It is not in a candidate who's in an R+ anything district to get out on doors and campaign with the one campaign. And if they do, they're going to lose. And that's the reality. So that's in their defense, they're trying to get out the base, and we're at odds with them just strategically, almost intentionally, and we're kind of counting on them to get out the base while we focus on the Republicans we need to turn. Now, the other thing is that one campaign is very top down, which is my biggest issue with them. I'm all about, empowering my door knockers and stuff. I would envision something where, somebody signs up to knock doors and they get a Van account, and like there's a way for them to be able to see how many doors they've knocked. And when they get to 200 doors, like they get, celebrated, and somebody sends a thank you card or an email, or I don't know. I mean, like really like have people take it on and invest in it. And like that will not happen with the one campaign unless there is a major shift. Because they are very top down. They do not take input. They do not care about your opinion about anything. At least that's been my experience. So I don't like working with the one campaign. Now, what was I going to say? I totally lost my other train of thought. If people, so I am not even sure, maybe Mark knows. Is Mark still on? Yeah. Is Eleanor's term through the end of the year, or is it till the next convention? And
I think it's to the next convention, which
okay.
I was hoping to get more info from Emily on this. Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, it's basically, we have a continuous until the next convention when we elect new congressional leadership.
Right. Except technically the actual changeover of congressional districts happens January 1st. So then there's just this 6 weeks of gray area. Well, I just wanted to say that I would be willing to organize and work with Eleanor and anybody else on having a retreat. We did this in 2017 on the heels of everybody being terrified for their lives when Trump was elected president. And so we could have it at the Ransom Library. There are breakout rooms there if we wanted to break out into smaller groups to have discussions. I mean, and it's a really nice venue, so we could rent it, or not rent it, but reserve it for the day and pick a Saturday and do that. So, for whatever it's worth.
Mhm. Sounds good. Okay, we got lots of hands up. Rick, you're first in line.
There we go. I'll be brief. I agree both with Jill and with Mariah in terms of one campaign. I know there was some frustration in Van Buren County with that as well. So I would look forward to an extended conversation about that and around that. I appreciate Jill bringing up the idea or scheduling a retreat and that sort of thing. I wonder if we could wait to schedule the CD until after the counties maybe have had an opportunity to set their date so we don't conflict with one another. I'm just wondering, maybe we can create a common calendar. And Mike signs, do we have that already? Maybe a common calendar.
We have our Van
We do.
Buren Dems calendar
No.
is already a common calendar.
And for CD6?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. All
It's-
right. So maybe
It's
we
just
could,
people have stopped using it, yeah.
yeah, throw those ideas up there. And I'm gonna open this can of worms, but I don't want to have an extended conversation, but I'm just wondering if between now and the convention, if there's any way we can find out what our funds situation is in CD6 and how those might be distributed between the new 4 and 5. I'm just gonna put that out there. I know we've had that conversation before, so thank you.
Yeah, just an update on that. I haven't heard anything from Ken, our treasurer, since probably this summer, even after repeated attempts to reach out to him. So I don't know what our status is. I know that they were trying to get more information from the FEC about our filing requirements to fix that. I don't know.
Very quick,
Mark.
Eleanor, could we have a little discussion about that? I'd like to help.
Yeah, Jill, what's your update?
So I talked to the KCDP treasurer, whose husband is the Kalamazoo County treasurer, and I can't remember their names, at Justin's Halloween party. She assured me that the FEC could care less about county committees, that we just need to empty the bank account and close it and just walk away.
Okay.
And close the pack and like nobody is ever going to come after anybody because they have bigger fish to fry than $2,000 in Kalamazoo. So they don't have enough people to actually go after serious election fraud or whatever. So she said don't even worry about it, which was refreshing.
And if I can just chime in, because Meg and I had that conversation, that was part of our financial review this past year. That guidance actually came from the MDP. They basically said, get your shit in order and don't worry about the past and make sure it's right for future filings. So whatever you need to do, get your bank accounts to zero. We actually have changed banks recently. So I suspect that we haven't done a filing in a proper filing in like 10 years when we haven't done any filing in like 6 years. So I suspect our next filing will start January 1 because we feel like we have our shit in order now. And the MDP was just like, yeah, it's not ideal. We don't have a good system in place for helping county parties with this. But just get it in order and ask forgiveness rather than permission later.
Right. So what do we need to do to make that happen?
I can take on contacting Ken if you want me to.
Okay.
Because we
You can
just
copy
need-
me if you need.
And I
backup.
guess we need to decide what we want to do with the money in the PAC, and somebody will have to figure out what we can do with it, like where it can be donated.
Yeah. Well, the admin account, we should probably keep just for organizational if we can transfer that directly.
Well, I think for this, the admin account doesn't have anything to do with the FEC. So,
Okay, that's good.
because that's just administrative stuff. It's just the PAC account that has to be closed and terminated, and like with whatever agency one opens that. If it's a federal PAC, I guess it's probably some federal, but we just need to close it and end the existence of the 6th district PAC.
Okay.
Again, I'd like to help out with this, but I think maybe there's details offline.
God bless you. Thank you.
Cool. Justin, I see your hand.
Awesome. Mine's about one campaign, and I know, at least in terms of chatting with Mariah, that's really easy, but I wanted to share this with all of you as things to think about. So near the end of the campaign for the 42nd district, we, over time, of course, when running for one of these and building a field campaign, you take deep dives on Van and really dive into it, try to really understand the tool, understand the data we have, and everything like that. So essentially, by the time we were doing Get Out the Vote doors, which we started about a month and a half before the election, which is about when one campaign started switching to those targets too, we did a head-to-head comparison of turfs that we cut that matched some of the one campaign turfs. And we did based on, there's a ton of search parameters, but we built what we thought was the very most strategic set of doors for us to knock in each of those areas and compared them head to head. And it's fascinating because my gut said that they were targeting only Dem doors, only base, but they weren't. They were targeting deep persuasion. They targeted people with Dem scores as low as 3%, turnout scores in the 60s. Like these were MAGA doors, some of them. And it was really interesting because we couldn't figure out the data. We couldn't reproduce their targets on the back end at all. And we tried for hours and really put some time into it to try to reproduce what they were doing so that we could strategically not target those doors and instead target who was remaining in our targets. We weren't able to do that. There is no one at one campaign who will share data with candidates, period, or with county parties. My big thought is, leading up to it, if we all come together as county parties and literally tell them, look, if you want to work with us at all, we need to share basics. We need to understand your targeting. You need to send us the parameters. Because that's the biggest thing for candidates. If we can know how to work strategically with them, we can figure this out. But the field teams are lost. We're shooting in the dark. And it's a huge waste of resources to, especially at GOTV, when you're trying to get those last few doors, trying to double hit those areas that they need a little bit of extra work, to not even know who the heck one campaign's targeting. Imagine that's a persuadable target, that it's a bad idea to bring Governor Whitmer lit to. And then next thing you know, they're getting Governor Whitmer's face next to your name on that persuadable door, and now they're absolutely voting against you. And that happens all over. So those are some things that are critical. But I think if we come together and demand better data access, also just the sharing of survey questions. They created generic survey questions, which let us at least target mail better. But 90% of the one campaign volunteers don't ask any of the survey questions anyway. They're taught to just ask the top question about the issue or about Governor Whitmer, and they almost never make it to the bottom. They knocked 2,500 doors in my district between the primary and GOTV targets, and we had 200 responses to the survey question from those 2,500 doors. In comparison, when we knocked 2,500 doors, we would have about 450 to 500 responses, right? Like this is the difference that you see in terms of those surveys. So anyway, just throwing that all out there, I completely agree that we should be really critical. I would love to help us form our strategy and demands on that, because I think we've got some power. We are the party. One campaign is just one campaign within the party.
Thanks, Justin. Amy, I see your hand.
Sorry, hard to unmute sometimes. Okay, yeah, totally agree with what Justin just said. I was just going to weigh in to Mariah's question. The way we dealt with the dysfunction or the incorrect prioritization or whatever it is, lack of transparency, all the things that Justin just said with one campaign is we just diversified. We just let them do top a ticket because that's all they were doing and all they were willing to do. It's very clear. And so we just didn't worry about that. And we did everything else, right? We did all the local stuff, including the state level, right? House and Senate. on down. And we focused our strategies on winning those races, and we just left top of ticket to them because that was the only good they were doing us, right? Other than a few coordinated sign shares, but even that wasn't super well done. The real problem comes with, and I don't know if Mariah is the one that mentioned this or who, but the real problem comes with the volunteer competition that's created, right? If there's only so big a pot of volunteers and they're drawing from that same pot that we are, it's not like you can tell somebody, oh no, you shouldn't be knocking doors for Whitmer, Benson, and Nessel. You know, of course you should, but it's actually a better bang for your buck if you come work with us, because then you're knocking all the down ticket as well. And so I don't know how to solve that, other than some kind of, you know, separation and say, okay, let's get our volunteers together earlier than they contact anybody and say, okay, if you really want to work top of ticket, fine, you guys go. And then the rest of you guys, you're going to be focused here, right, on the local stuff. But I actually like Justin's idea better. We really just need to take a stand together. And if we do that, of course, well, they'd be really stupid not to listen to us. I can't say they'll have to listen to us, but you know, maybe we, you know, make it ask for an actual meeting with leadership at MDP and say, hey, here's where we see the problems. Here's where we think we can make improvements. Here's what we're offering to share, like Justin was suggesting, right? Let's have a mutually beneficial thing. I mean, aren't we all working for the same thing? Seems logical. So I'm not sure if there's other things going on behind the scenes that I'm just not aware of, but it's just strange, right? And in the past, it was more contentious, like, and you know, one campaign coming in and saying, you guys need to do this way. That didn't happen. It was just totally hands off, right? I kind of put a stop to that, you know, when I got involved, and I said, no, we're going to do things our way. But that doesn't solve the bigger problem. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks. Melissa, I see your hand.
Totally agree with everything everyone said about the one campaign. It's been that way since the beginning. And yes, it was more contentious. We have to figure out a way to work with them. Yes, we do have power, and I think we have to use it. So, and I'm not sure how is Lavore and are they all up for election this coming convention too?
Yes.
I don't know. Okay,
Probably.
Okay, so, you know, I guess, you know, there's a little leverage there saying you want our support, then we need, you know, we can play Marjorie Taylor Greene, give us this and we'll give you that. The other thing is totally separate, but still part of this that are going forward. Berrien County, we had 65,000 people that didn't vote. And we can spend some time looking at the people that voted Republican and whether they were happy or not. But we have to figure out a way to figure out who these 65,000 people are that didn't vote. And I don't know how we go about doing that, how the band plays into that. But that's a lot of people, you know, even though at a time when we had a much higher rate for a midterm than, you know, was supposed to be had. I don't think those days are going away. So, and I'm sure we're not the only one of the counties that had a large number of people that did not vote. But we have to figure out a strategy on how do we find those people are, you know, maybe
Melissa,
that's.
do you
Go
know
ahead.
what percentage that is in Berrien?
It was, I don't remember off the top of my head. I think we had about 47% maybe, but maybe not quite that high. But still, a lot of people not voting. Who are they? You know, and how do we figure out who they are? So some of them we don't care if they don't vote. But it breaks my heart when people don't vote. I have to say, no matter where you're at, it just why, you know, why are you not voting? You know, so anyway, something for our retreat. So,
Jill, I see your hand.
Yeah, Mariah just posted. Yeah, it's in the van. I looked for it about a week ago, but it wasn't there yet. But eventually it will say who voted in the election. And then, you know, if somebody didn't vote, you can pull a list of the people who didn't vote in the election, and you can do it by Dem score and stuff like that. I wanted to respond to Amy's question about, you know, how to coordinate with the one campaign. And I kind of talked to Justin about this a bit. you've got people who are, I feel like kind of having two teams, maybe it's more, but you know, the team of people who are like scared of canvassing, but if they are fairly certain they're going to be knocking on Democratic doors, they're going to be less terrified. And we could kind of sell them on, hey, who doesn't want to know more Democrats? I got a great opportunity for you. You can go knock on these doors and meet Democrats. And maybe that's kind of like where most people cut their teeth, is knocking on doors and talking to Democrats. And so if you kind of brand it like, here's the team talk to Democrats or whatever you call it, I don't know what the name is going to be. And then here's the who wants to have, you know, in-depth, you know, conversations, who wants to win over people, who wants to bridge the divide, you know, and really talk to the voters that are going to make the difference. Because, you know, and you can have that whole conversation about, you know, we aren't going to win this district if we don't talk to 20,000 Republicans, you know, and who wants to sign up for, you know, the tough mission. And I've seen that pitch work, because sometimes people are really motivated by the opportunity to make a profound difference. And so, you know, the whole messaging on that is all about how you can make a profound difference and you can help bridge this divide and help bring us together. And there are people who will respond to that. So that's my suggestion. And then obviously the Team Democrat people, they go work with the one campaign.
Rick, you're next.
Real quick, and this is for Mariah, I guess, and for Jill too. Don't precinct delegates, aren't we supposed to have access to information in our precinct who the Democrats are?
You can.
Right, do you know how to get, because going on your point, Jill, about finding people that, we discovered that in Van Buren County, I think, just by happenstance, because of the way that we went about campaigning this time around. But to make that connection, can we maybe at the county level ask our precinct delegates to dig in a little bit more? I don't, that's a question, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I think what we need to do on that, and I'm happy to facilitate that, you know, is we need to all precinct delegates can have access to their precinct in the van. Generally speaking, I just give all my precinct delegates access to the whole county. And so, I don't know how it works in other counties, but when I first became chair, I asked for my van access and I got, you know, chair van access, and we're a small party. So maybe Mariah has like a van person that, you know, administers their van for all of their volunteers. But for sure, every county has a point person who can create van accounts for your membership. And I definitely think the more you can get people into van and the more you can get people trained on how to use van, the better, because the more candidates you have, the more people are going to need help with their field and need van.
Who do we contact again to get that?
Van at Michigan Dems.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. Yep. Gotcha.
And then, yeah, and if I think probably from a procedural standpoint, if the chair was to send the email and request van access, or maybe say, this is going to be my designated person that's going to be setting up access for volunteers and precinct delegates, and please give them access comparable to what the chair would have, then that would get set up. And then from there, you can just take it, and we should probably do we should probably do several workshops in the off season to get people up to speed on van and such.
I think Mariah could lead a workshop on van.
I'm pretty confident that I could. I'll also add that once you have county party chair access to your van account, you can change the level that any volunteer or super volunteer is ranked at. And I can show anyone how to do that. So I'm happy to lead any van training because that's all I do for work.
Oh, yeah. And I do think that, you know, the MDP has training on van, and they used to have van office hours once a week where anybody that was like trying to learn van and they got an ID and then they were kind of struggling, they could just go to the van training. And sometimes it was not a particular agenda of here's what we're going to teach you, but it's like, what questions do you have? And we'll like dig into it and help you with your little mission that you're on.
Yeah, they used to do that. It was really useful. Wendy, I see your hand.
Yeah, I'll be brief, but this is kind of a soapbox thing for me. When we were talking about getting folks that maybe aren't comfortable on the doors, I've seen in the last several years. It was better this year, but folks that went out by themselves to go door to door. And for several reasons, I would encourage that we don't do that. One is for safety.
Can you say what you said again? Because you broke up or you got really, really faint.
I'm sorry. Send
I'm losing her again.
I think she actually got disconnected.
Oh, dear.
So Wendy and I actually talked about this at our executive committee meeting, and I can probably fill in some of what she was going to say, which is that it's just not safe to send people out on doors by themselves. And even though we recognize we have a low amount of volunteers and we need to get this, a number of doors knocked, it's not a good experience when you get followed in a place you're not familiar with. Like that happens to me, that happens to experienced canvassers all the time, and it's creepy and it discourages people from going back out. And when they have negative experiences like that, A, they don't come back to knock doors again, but B, they're bad on the doors when they do make contact with someone. Like they don't feel safe or comfortable, so they're not doing as good a job as they would be otherwise. So what Wendy and I talked about is that we really, as county parties, need to push candidates to send volunteers out in pairs, because a lot of those volunteers are our volunteers. And even though it sucks for candidates like numbers sometimes, it really is just better practice, because volunteers don't want to knock doors because they don't feel safe.
Sorry, I got knocked off. I heard Mariah's last bit here. Not only is it for safety reasons, but also it builds party. I mean, when I first got involved in the Democratic Party here in Kalamazoo, I met a ton of people and got very close to them. I was working at a job where it was almost all Republicans, and that was how I really connected with people. And so it's a party builder too. So there's a lot of reasons. Safety with people being crazy in the Republican Party. And also, I mean, I was walking with an elderly person one time and she fell, right? So I want to really encourage that we do that, both for safety and party building.
And the other thing that I would just say is that can totally work. And but I think as long as we have a mission of continuing to train more people, so you take somebody who's experienced like me, and I take a volunteer out and put them under my wing, and I canvass with them a couple of times, and then it's like, okay, go find a buddy and teach them how to canvass, and then they go out not by themselves. They go out with somebody who's green, maybe who's terrified, I don't know. And, and they show them the ropes. So I think if we can just keep that focus, that we, train one, teach one, and then cut them loose and have them carry on and teach. Or just, get a buddy, and maybe the experienced people do the teaching, but, anybody can go out and canvass this. They just go find a warm body to stand next to them. So that's one way you can make the volunteers go farther.
I completely agree. Just real briefly, what we do sometimes is, that we tell them the new person that has gone with me a couple times and then now go find a buddy. We tell them it's more fun to go with another person, and that other person literally can be the person who's marking not home, or, that yes, they're a strong supporter, on and on. They could be the data entry person and the other person can be on the door. And then that person's learning as they're doing that, right? And then the next time, and I tell them also to have them do a few doors themselves if they're comfortable. And then that's how you bring them into the fold, because that's the challenge that we all face, right? Nobody wants to canvass at first, it seems like, or very few people want to do that. But you just got to get them out there. Say, well, oh, great, you don't have to canvass. Could you just be my data entry person? And they go with them, and then they see it's not so scary, that it actually is pretty awesome when you have these great conversations with people, especially those persuadables. And so I couldn't agree more. Always two if you can, or at least until they are able to feel confident and capable by themselves. Yeah.
All right, any last comments, questions, concerns, thoughts? We got about 15 minutes.
So it
with
sounds
people
like people
dropping off.
are most people wanting to wait to have like a retreat until like March?
Yes,
I'm
Probably.
ready anytime. I say sooner the better, but whatever people want.
I just like to have time to meet with my county executive committee first and get our kind of plan together, Jill, but we can talk about
No,
that. later.
that makes sense. If people want to, focus on that, and then, we can even, I could send out an email to the county chairs to, just start looking at dates and actually get it on the calendar. So we're not, losing a lot of time. Has anybody heard when the convention's going to be? Any tentative dates? I didn't check with.
It's usually
February.
the first or second week
In
of the month, because
February.
it like corresponds with whenever the SCC meeting would be, which is usually like the first or second week.
Yeah, the December 3rd is the SCC meeting.
Yeah, but they have one
So-
in February too.
Well,
I
right,
mean, they'll have-
right.
Usually it's been February.
I think
around then.
last time it was February 20th though, so I'll try and
Yeah.
find out, and if I do, I will. Corey, you don't know, do you? When the convention's gonna be? They must have the room booked already.
They're working on all that right now, from what I've
Oh.
just heard.
Okay. And one other question for Corey. Lavora is planning to run for chair, isn't she?
From what I last heard, I believe she is, yeah.
Okay, good.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, everybody. This has been a really productive conversation. I thank you again all for your help in the last election cycle and look forward to seeing you in January, because we're not having a December meeting because we usually have that off for the holidays. So Thanksgiving is coming up. Have a safe holiday, have a safe rest of the holiday season, have a good December. If you need anything from me, please do not hesitate to reach out. Especially in this coordination of everything going forward, let me know, and I'm here to help any way I can.
Thanks, Eleanor.